What are you most noticing with his improvements this year? Because he does look like a different player, and yet it just feels like every part of him is just a tick better.
I mean, he looks like playoff Nylander is what he looks like. Like when you see him, and I think the thing I would point to is the way he's moving and his skating, and it seems very effortless. It seems very kind of fearless. Like look
Mhm.
at the play he made there where he cuts through to the net. And I had to watch it back a couple times and say, like, how did he do that? Like he just moved he almost moved like a figure skater or something out there with the puck. And when Nylander's at his best, he's one of the best, I don't know, 10, 15 forwards in the league. Like he can be so good. And one of the great things I've been able to do is watch a lot of Nylander in practice, morning skates, and just like his skill set with what he can do with the puck, with how he can move, how strong he is, but it doesn't get talked about enough. Like he's a tank.
Mhm.
Um, and I think he's using all of those. He just seems very, very determined and focused. And there were some sarcastic people in the press box earlier in the season that were saying, "Oh, contract year, Willie."
Mhm.
um, but I think that he just really wants to prove that the that he belongs in that conversation with the best players in the league. And so far, I mean, I guess you could argue Matthews, but I think that there's a pretty compelling argument that Nylander's been their best player so far this year.
I would still give it to Matthews just because what he can also do defensively, like,
Hmm.
and just some of the stuff he does even on the forecheck and how scary it is when a defenseman is trying to move the puck out, right? Or a forward's trying to get the puck out of his own end, and Matthews is bearing down on you. It's just it feels a little different than what Nylander can bring in that regard. But if you're talking about the number one Leaf you want, puck on the stick and fly in through the neutral zone, you're down a goal, you want him over the boards. I think it's Nylander right now. Like I think Nylander has been the better offensive player to Matthews. But Matthews had an awesome start. The goals are great. He's playing great. I just don't think anybody has matched what Nylander is doing in terms of like driving offense for a team. I bet you. I bet you that there's some charts out there that show this is the Nylander all along, right? This has always been William Nylander. You guys just always hated on him and blah, 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 blah. To me, he's different. To me, it's the skating looks a little crisper. The strength, you said it. He's a tank, but I feel as though he's even stronger this year. Like he hit the gym just a touch more. Everything, the finishing is just a slight bit better. Everything about his game looks way more dialed in. He's had way fewer moments of just complete mental lapses. There's been some stuff in the D zone, but if you're doing this offensively, like absolutely, who cares? He's been brilliant this year. He's to me unquestionably the story of the Leafs season, even ahead of Matthews, even ahead of the goaltending stuff and all the lineup shuffling that's gone on. He's been brilliant. So yeah, credit to him. If this is all about the money, if this is getting a contract, like good for him. Go get the bag because this is the way that you're going to get it, man. Do you like Bertuzzi on his line?
Nah, I mean, it wasn't working with Matthews and Marner. I mean, I think he's been okay. It's hard
Mm-hmm.
for me to evaluate Bertuzzi because he's going through whatever the injury is, and we don't know what it is. But it's severe enough that they were debating. It's severe enough that I
Mm-hmm.
think that that's why they're carrying the extra forward as opposed to an extra defenseman on the road, which is unusual because they don't know if Bertuzzi's going to be able to play every night. And it's severe enough that it's diminished what he's been able to give them the last, I don't know, 3 games. So. Um, we'll see with Bertuzzi. I think he's been okay, but I think for $5 million, you want to see a little bit more out of him.
Yeah, it's hard with the injury. Like we don't. I have no idea what it is because I'm watching him play and it doesn't like it's hard to pick up whatever it is.
Yeah, I mean, what I've heard is he's like spending a lot of time kind of like trying to like stretch it out and like, but there's just something there's a pull or something
So
that
it's
he's
in his
playing
leg.
through that seems like it.
Okay. Yeah, because I was gonna
But
say mostly looks pretty fine. Like, and I feel as though he's cut down on taking some of the dumb penalties over the last couple of games, which has been a nice change of pace. I feel like the hockey smarts are there, that he makes a lot of right plays. He hasn't had the forceful impact, I would say, of the $5+ million player so far, and he hasn't lived up the expectations of, oh, this guy might be a newer version of Hyman or a better version of Bunting.
yeah, I think he got overhyped a little bit in the off season when they signed him. Like he's a good player, but I think in a perfect world he's a second line 20, 25 goal, 45, 50 point guy. Like he's not the people who were saying he's going to get 30 and he's going to, set career highs. I mean, he's had a lot of injuries over the last couple of years. As you said, he takes a lot of penalties. Hockey sense is not exactly what he's known for. He's not an amazing passer. I don't want to go down the whole list of running the guy down because he's a good player, but where he had a lot of success in Boston was on the power play, on the top power play unit, and they're just not going to use him there in Toronto unless there's an injury.
I was thinking about this actually the other day, how some of the big appeal is, hey, you get to play with Matthews and Marner, right? With guys like Bertuzzi who are willing to take those one-year deals. Same thing with Domi, right? Hey, come here, take a prove-it deal. And it worked for Klingberg because he actually gets to run the power play. But this is the one downside. I wonder if there will be a ripple effect off this. Is like, hey, it worked for Bunting, right? He ended up getting a contract with Carolina, and it was good money. It wasn't amazing money. I think it was a little under where most thought it was going to be. Like, I remember Frank coming on and saying he was the number one free agent and that he was due for a big splash. He was going to go outside of where the Leafs could pay him, and then he ended up getting a deal where I went, oh, yeah, that's awesome. Good for him. But it wasn't like, holy crap, you can't pay the guy that. You can't give the guy that. He got paid, I thought, reasonably. Maybe some of it's cap, and if it was up, he would have got something splashier. Maybe it was just this being a down year where no one really got paid. But, yeah, it didn't really happen. But if you're one of those guys, right, that wants to do the prove-it deal, and you're an offensive player and you have been getting those power play points, you got to take that you got to factor that in, that you're not going to get that time, right? That your best-case scenario is what we saw yesterday where you're getting the last 50 seconds of the power play.
Yeah. Power play, too, it seems like gets used less and less in the NHL. So, and it's often a scramble fest. It's often different guys. You don't get a lot of time to find your rhythm. Sometimes you're coming over the boards and the puck's in your own zone and you got to break into the zone. And it's not, it's not a great place to be when you're in a contract here on that PP2, especially with the league. I mean, the big guys are so good that, Matthews and Marner can play, and Nylander can play 1.5 minutes every time. I can't. The second power play unit, like how often have the Leafs had a really good unit there? I mean, there were some fun times remember when Spezza was there and quarterbacking it, and they looked dangerous at those times. But for the most part, it's been kind of an afterthought the last 6 or 7 years.
I kind of like them though so far, at least. Like I like Domi there. I like Domi there. I like Riley there. I like the 2-point, the Liljegren thing, like the tic-tac-toe of those three guys last night was fairly nice. You know what?
Yeah,
Liljegren's
pass was good. I mean,
really
that's good. That's like Liljegren has not played very much on an NHL power play. I think that was his fourth power play point. So, but he's got the vision back there, and it's interesting using Riley as a rover with just how good of a skater he is.
You know what else I like too is I think that I've come around a little bit on the changes and the shuffling. Because at first I went, let these guys settle in, Sheldon. For God's sakes, give them a little bit of leash. Having Domi be a story 3 games into the season because you've moved him on multiple lines is bad. But this is a place where guys often get too comfortable. And, yeah, just having that level of everyone's competing for all their ice time, I think is a good thing. I think that this has been all right. And the other part of this, Leafs power play was what, last year? Second in the NHL? It was really good, yet for some reason. But it does... Anybody who follows this team knows that the overall percentage is high and overall percentage looks good. But each season it feels like they get into a little bit of a lull, right? That top power play unit where you go, what's happening here? We have a stretch of play where it seems redundant and we have conversations about who should be where. And already this year they've moved Marner around, which has been a nice change of pace. But I like that they have something else to go to now, where if those guys aren't they're not doing something, they can go to a reliable second unit. Or the other part of this too, they have an injury to one of those guys. It feels like you've got a bunch of different players that could step in there and immediately contribute to the power play, right? This isn't like Ryan O'Reilly. Bertuzzi and Domi, like real stud power play performers that you can slot into there. And so to me, the power play actually is going to feel more dangerous than ever, even though I've seen some stats that are like, it's actually down a little bit from where it was to start the season a year ago. So I'm like bullishly optimistic about what the power play is going to be for them this year, and the true feeling of what it was supposed to be a couple of seasons ago, where people said, well, the enforcer is the power play. Like I feel that more than ever with this group.
Yeah. No, I mean, there's been what you're talking about with the measurement has been looking at with Klingberg there versus with Riley there. the expected goals or the analytics or whatever are down a little bit. But
Yeah.
I mean, they're converting. It looks dangerous. I think we're dealing with pretty small sample sizes when you're looking
Sure.
at some of the scoring chances and stuff like that. I mean, I haven't been watching the power play and seeing a lot of problems there. Like they're getting into the zone easily, like
They look awesome.
yeah.
They look awesome, dude. It's just the power play is fine. That's why I saw those numbers too, and I went, I love how this is one of my favorite things about analytics is if you use it to support a case against someone the analytics community likes, they go, it's a very small sample size. And if it's trying to make the case against someone they don't, like Ryan Reeves, it's like, look at this. Look at the Ryan Reeves numbers, even though it's supported by the eye test as well. All I said is it's very odd to me the way that sometimes these things end up getting pushed. I will say this, though, okay? Like, if there's one part of the early sample that I don't really love is, all right, they're trying to, I'm higher, I think, on Bertuzzi than maybe you, some others so far. I like the hockey IQ. I just see him make simple but the right play a lot. And I just enjoy watching a player like that. I wasn't, maybe I was part of the expecting 30 goals crowd. Maybe I thought that this would be a little bit more forceful, but I'm giving him a bit of a reprieve based on the fact that he is a little hurt, that he is trying to mesh with a couple of new players, that he is fitting in with a new team, and that he's not getting power play one time. So all those things factor into me. I haven't seen anything where I've gone, man, this sucks, or this isn't enough.
Do you buy the theory that it's hard to play with Matthews and Marner and that, like, not everyone's going to be able to do it? I mean, those guys have the puck a ton of the time, and they kind of are looking for each other a lot of the time.
Yes and no. Yes and no. Because I do think that it's easy to be basically, hey, go get the puck in the corner guy. Like, not everyone can do that, but I don't know how, like, you just have to be a dog on that line, right? That's why I kind of think that ultimately the guy that's going to belong there is Nyes. Because you watch him, the thing that really stands out to me the most with Nyes so far this season, other than the gorgeous like snipe on the first Domi assist, is when he's on a defender's back, he's the most noticeable Leaf. Like, he just seems to have this energy in short bursts, his size, everything about him. Like, the forecheck to me looks really nasty. And I want to see what he can do with some elevated minutes and with those guys where he's got the finishing touch, he's big in front of the net. And yeah, he can also force a turnover along with Matthews. Like, the two guys that can both finish Marner passes, two guys that put a lot, well, three guys actually, because Marner's also very good at turning the puck over. Three guys that are really good at turning the puck over. To me, that's the eventual destiny of the line. It's just that you had a little bit of chemistry with Domi and Nyes, and I think Keefe played it well, which is, hey, see if it can develop into something. See if you can try to get Domi going, because eventually you are going to need three lines. You can't be a two-line team.
Yeah, I think probably the debate for Keefe is Nyes ready to be on the top line playing against, the best players in the league. And, I agree with you. He's so good at his board play. Like, if it's a one-on-one battle and he's up against a guy, it is kind of like Matthews a little bit in that he kind of knows where to go to get that puck back and turn it over on, and he's a lot to deal with. He's got the reach is part of it, I think, but it's hockey IQ and being able to turn those pucks over. And it's probably a matter of time before Nyes is on that line. Like, I think we'll probably see that within the first half of the season at some point, especially with how active the line blender has been so far this year.
I do too. I think that eventually what we're going to see is that second line stay the same way, the way that it's been. And I like Bertuzzi more there. I think that he's fine and that he'll round into form. I think Nyes ends up on the top line with those guys and playing those heavy minutes. And yeah, probably get sheltered a little bit. Like, I could see them still doing stuff where they put Nylander up with the top line in certain games, and we look at the score sheet and it's like, oh yeah, Nyes got his 14 to 16 somewhere in there, but he's never with them cracking, getting close to cracking the 20 number. And then a third line that has that blend of, we're trying to be responsible defensively with Kampf and Yarncroc, but also Yarncroc, a guy who can finish a little bit, and with Domi. And you hope that they can sort of find an identity and create something like that. That to me is the inevitability here.
That second Nyes goal against Tampa to tie the game, I thought it was, everyone's talking about the Domi and the Nyes connection, but I thought it was funny that, Domi turns the puck over to Hagel there as he's trying to go into the blue line, and who's the fail-safe behind him? But Kampf comes up, steals the puck back, gets it to Domi. Domi makes the play to Nyes, and they tie the game. And, so maybe there's something. I mean, it feels like on paper that line's a little bit weird having Kampf there, but maybe, especially with Domi there, you need someone who's coming up as the third forward who's just going to make sure that, they've got enough guys back and that they can turn the play back the other way sometimes.